The purpose of this Corning training video is to demonstrate the installation of the Corning FuseLite SC Splice-on connector for a 2mm or 3mm jacketed cable. Please remember to follow all proper safety procedures when working with fiber optic cables. The tools that are needed for this procedure are as follows: the jacket stripper remover, the snips for removing aramid yarns, 2-hole fiber stripper, a black ink pen, your lint-free wipes, as well as your 90% isopropyl alcohol. The next piece of equipment you'll need is the fusion splicer. This is the Corning's OptiSplice 1 fusion splicer. Ensure that you have acquired the proper fiber handlers to perform this operation. This splicer also comes with the FBC006H fiber cleaver. And now we'll cover the features of the SC FuseLite connector. The Corning FuseLite SC connector comes packaged in a blister pack like this. I've already removed the components so I can demonstrate them each to you. We start with the ferrule sub-assembly, which has your factory cleave fiber stub, and the long portion here is what's called the dust cap antenna. This will be removed later in the process. Your heat shrink sleeve with integrated spring. Then you have your rear housing with boot and furcation tubing, your inner housing, and then your final step of applying the outer housing or shroud. First step of the process is to install the rear boot, rear housing furcation tube assembly onto the jacketed fiber and slide it out of the way. Next step is we're going to use the cable slitting tool or the jacket slitting tool. We're going to ring cut a portion of the cable off. You have a positive stop, so simply load the cable. There are blades inside of here. Simply rotate the cable and remove that part of the cable. Next step is separate the 900 micron fiber from the yarns. Open up the tool and insert the cable into the 2mm channel and make sure that it comes all the way up to the positive stop at this point. Pull the yarns back once again. Take your pen and mark the 900 jacket right at the end of the blue tool. Now at this point we're going to slit the jacket long ways, which will cut it into 2 halves. So grab the tool and pull the cable through. So at this point you separate the yarns and the slit jacket from the 900 micron fiber, and now install your heat shrink sleeve. Slide it down and out of the way. In this step, we're going to remove the 900 micron jacket and then load the fiber into the proper fiber handler, and then we'll load the handler in the fusion splicer. So from the mark we made earlier, remove the 900 micron jacket and then remove the 250 micron coating. Clean with alcohol. Make sure that you have the yarns in the jacket pulled away, and then load the fiber in the handler, ensuring that you have 2 millimeters of the 900 micron fiber sticking out beyond the handler, like this. So the next step is cleaving the fiber in the FBC006H cleaver. So we're going to install the handler in the cleaver. Make sure that the handler is seated firmly and lower the anvil. Cleave the fiber. Remove the handler from the cleaver. Make sure that you have your yarn and your jacket halves out of the way and install the handler in the fusion splicer. Be careful in the transition point that you do not damage the fiber stub. In this step, we're going to insert the ferrule subassembly into its proper handler. Notice the black dot on top. As I rotate, make sure that this black dot is facing upward. So hold the handler in your hand and gently position the subassembly into the handler as such and close the clamp. Now I'll insert the handler into the Fusion Splicer. Once again, make sure that you do not make contact with any other foreign objects to damage the fiber stub. So once I have my fibers in place, I'll close the electrode flap. And now we'll set our program for a single mode. So we go to Home, Programs, right arrow key. I will make sure that single mode is highlighted. And I want standard single mode. And right arrow key. I press Home. And now I press the green button and I press it one more time. Now that splice is complete, lower the electrode flap, release the clamp on the filled fiber, and now release the clamp on the ferrule subassembly. Make sure that you keep the fiber taut. Do not twist it or bend it or it will break. Make sure that the heat shrink sleeve falls down and positions itself as such with the ferrule housing. Lower the assembly into the heat shrink oven. Make sure that the heat shrink sleeve is over the splice point and close the lid. When you hear the audible alert, remove the assembly from the oven. The heat shrink sleeve is still hot, so let it cool for a moment before final assembly. In this step, we are going to remove the boot and furcation tube assembly from the rear housing, and we'll bring the housing up to the actual splice point. So simply unthread the boot, slide it out of the way, and at this point we have what's called a jacket stopper, which I'll demonstrate shortly, but slide it down the cable as well, remove the orange tab, and discard. Now we'll move the rear housing up towards the ferrule assembly, and we're going to pull the yarns and the jacket halves back through the rear housing as such. So push the rear housing up onto the heat shrink sleeve and spring as you see. Rotate the ferrule subassembly so that the black dot is facing upward. Now take the inner housing and ensure that the red dot is facing upward and will be in alignment with the black dot on the ferrule subassembly. Slide it over the antenna and gently press the two halves together. Now it's complete. In this step, we're going to bring up the jacket stopper. So slide it up and now pull the yarns back through once again. And bring the jacket halves up to where they match up to the side of the housing. And now slide the jacket stopper up, which will secure and hold the jacket pieces in place. So you can see where I have the jacket stopper securely in place, holding the two jacket halves, preventing them from moving. Now I'm going to bring the boot and furcation tube assembly up to the rear housing. And what I want to do is fan out the aramid yarns around the housing and slide the boot up to the point where we can now thread the boot onto the rear housing. The aramid yarns will provide the strain relief that you will need. So firmly thread it up till it stops and gather the excess yarns, and using your snips, remove the excess yarns, and it is perfectly fine if there's a little bit sticking out around the housing. And then our final step is to install the outer housing or shroud. Make sure that the key on top is in line with the red dot on the inner housing. Slide it over the antenna and simply press it on. Now, last step is remove the dust cap antenna, discard it, and now you have your dust cap. I do recommend that you keep the dust cap on until ready to install the connector. That's your complete SC FuseLite connector. That's it. If you have any questions or recommendations for videos, call us or send us an email at cablesystems@corning.com. Remember, Corning Cable Systems recommends getting properly trained in fiber optic installation. We offer a series of training classes. Thank you.